The content of this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended as, nor should it be considered a substitute for professional medical advice.
Sweaty and pissed. Menopause makes me sweaty and pissed.
Welcome, everyone, to Sweaty and Pissed, Menopause, and More. I'm Karen Nickel, nurse practitioner, and I'm here today to answer a couple of listener questions. The first question is from a listener who asks, can you discuss exercise and its role in hormone balance and importance as we age? This is a great question. I really appreciate it. And I hope I can clarify what exercise does for us in terms of our hormone balance. Let me start by saying that in addition to all the other benefits of regular exercise, physical activity is associated with a 25% reduction in the average risk of breast cancer among women. And this protective benefit appears to be independent of menopausal status, meaning you could be premenopausal, perimenopausal, menopausal. When you exercise regularly, you have a 25% reduction in breast cancer risk. So that's bad enough, should motivate us to get out and exercise. So in previous episodes, we have talked about some of the hormone imbalance issues that can occur in women. Estrogen dominance can occur at any age, but is most commonly seen in perimenopausal and menopausal women. As a reminder, for those of you who haven't heard the episode or need some recollection of the episode, estrogen dominance is an imbalance of estrogen and progesterone, meaning estrogen is very high and progesterone is too low. This can cause a host of symptoms, including fatigue, weight gain, foggy thinking, low sex drive, heavy periods, increased cramping with periods, breast tenderness, hot flashes, night sweats, and increased PMS symptoms. So if you're perimenopausal, you're probably sitting there going, check, 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 have all those. So it's pretty common for especially perimenopausal women to have many of these symptoms. Another hormone imbalance problem called polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, can occur in premenopausal women. This hormonal problem causes high levels of testosterone and can lead to several symptoms, including acne, scalp hair loss, hirsutism, which is increased facial or body hair, weight gain, and irregular periods. PCOS can also contribute to insulin resistance in addition to high insulin and blood sugar levels, which is why we consider PCOS to be a pre-diabetic syndrome. In a 2015 meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, and a meta-analysis is when someone looks at several studies and pulls data from all these studies to get certain pieces of information. And then in this case, they were looking at the effect of physical activity on circulatory female hormones and what was the benefit or lack of benefit. The women included in this study were all cancer-free. That was the one big criteria. They all had to be cancer-free. But the women were all of different ages, different weights, different ethnicity, and some of the women had PCOS. So different types of exercise were allowed, including different intensity of exercise. So they had a group with yoga who did yoga, a group with running, a group with weight resistance, and then they had a group where they could pick whatever exercise they wanted to use. So regular exercise of any intensity level or duration lowered high estrogen levels and high testosterone levels. So women who have either estrogen dominance or PCOS can improve those hormonal imbalances with regular exercise because you're lowering those two hormones that tend to cause these problems. Of course, additional benefits of regular exercise include improved mood, improved energy, better sleep, and improved balance and mobility. So if you haven't found an exercise regimen that you can enjoy on some level and maintain on a regular basis, I urge you to explore some options so you can incorporate exercise into your life. If you're having difficulty finding a way to exercise while you're staying at home during this COVID-19 era, I recommend that you explore something like the Peloton app. Peloton, you've probably heard of it, Peloton, Peloton, Peloton app, which at the time of this airing, which is May 30th, 2020, they are offering a 30-day free trial. And the app includes classes for strength training, yoga, meditation, cardio, stretching, boot camp, walking, running, and cycling. And the classes are offered at beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. So you can check out all different types of classes at a level of intensity that works for you. I'm not paid by Peloton, but I have myself used the app, and the classes are very good. And I think the longest class is a 30-minute class. So you can do something every day. It won't take you a long time to do it, and you can choose different ways to exercise. So we're going to take a little break for our sponsor, and then we'll get back and I'll talk about another question that we have from Angela. So while we are touching on this subject of estrogen dominance, another listener, Angela, states that she has been on Premarin 0.625 milligrams since her hysterectomy in her 20s. She is now 45 years old and has weight gain, low libido, and fatigue. So, Angela, I'm going to assume that since you were prescribed Premarin after your hysterectomy in your 20s, that you had your uterus and your ovaries removed. And I first want to say, I'm sorry that you had to have that surgery at such a young age. It makes it very difficult to maintain a good hormone balance for all those decades. And I don't know what the history was, but I'm sorry that you had to have that surgery. So when the ovaries are removed from a woman who is still having periods, it throws her immediately into menopause. Because of this, when someone has the ovaries removed and they're still having periods prior to surgery, an estrogen replacement is usually prescribed right away. So you can avoid hot flashes and night sweats. And the estrogen does a really good job of that. We've discussed this previously, but most of the time when a woman has a hysterectomy, progesterone is not prescribed. Progesterone thins the lining of the uterus and estrogen thickens the lining of the uterus. So when HRT is prescribed for a woman who still has a uterus, progesterone is prescribed along with the estrogen to make sure that the lining isn't overstimulated, which can lead to endometrial cancer, which is the cancer of the lining of the uterus. For women who have had the uterus removed, there is no longer concern about the thickness of the uterine lining. So those women are typically not given progesterone. The problem with this approach is that progesterone has many other benefits besides keeping the lining thin. It is our sleep-promoting hormone and mood-stabilizing hormone. It helps with sex drive and slows growth of the breast cells. Unfortunately, women who have had a hysterectomy don't receive the hormone, mainly as progesterone, that really balances estrogen. So, Angela, what you have is estrogen dominance, and you have a lot of estrogen and no progesterone. Additionally, Premarin is a conjugated estrogen, meaning it contains several different types of estrogen. It is a mixture of 30-plus substances derived from the urine of pregnant mares. So that would be a horse. So we're talking horse estrogen. Estradiol, which is the dominant sex steroid hormone in women, the dominant bioidentical estrogen in women accounts for only about 17% of Premarin's total content. So 17% of your Premarin is estradiol, which is a hormone that is found in your body when you are making the hormone. And all the other hormones that are in there, all the other estrogens that are in there, are not human estrogens. So there's a difference between taking bioidentical estradiol and Premarin. There is an estradiol pill and patch, by the way. A new study by Stanford University School of Medicine researchers found that when estradiol was started soon after menopause, it prevented degeneration in key brain regions of women who were at high risk for dementia. Let me just say that again. So estradiol, when it started as soon as you go into menopause, prevents degeneration of key brain regions in women who are at high risk for dementia. They also found that Premarin, which contains only a small amount of estradiol, right, was far less brain protective and actually accelerated some of these brain regions' decline. So not only did it not help, they actually saw a decline in some of the brain regions when women were on Premarin versus estradiol. Again, this is a Stanford University School of Medicine study. So for my patients with estrogen dominance, I use bioidentical estrogens and balance it with progesterone, even if they have had a hysterectomy. I also use bioidentical progesterone versus synthetic progestin, which does not provide the same benefits as progesterone. The Stanford study also found that when progestin, which again is not the same as progesterone, was added to either Premarin or estradiol, it deleted any brain benefits provided by estradiol and actually worsened the decline seen in Premarin. So, bioidentical progesterone is the key balancing hormone you want to have versus progestin. So the take-home message is that exercising regularly and having a balanced regimen of bioidentical estrogen, estradiol, and progesterone can address the symptoms of estrogen dominance. So in terms of speaking to your provider, Angela, there is, as I said, a bioidentical estradiol tab and a patch that are manufactured. So they're at your regular pharmacy. We have a bioidentical progesterone capsule that is also manufactured and available at your regular pharmacy, and both of them are in generic form. So if your provider is not comfortable with compounding, which many aren't because it takes special training, if he or she is not comfortable with compounding a bioidentical hormone regimen for you, it would be worth having the conversation of, at the very least, changing the Premarin to estradiol, and ideally changing the Premarin to estradiol and adding bioidentical progesterone. I think that would help with your symptoms, and it will help keep a healthy brain in menopause. And you're still very young, so that's an important thing to implement so that your brain stays healthy. I hope that's helpful. I hope that answers your questions. And I thank again all our listeners for the excellent questions. I want to thank Forrest Wenzel, who produced today's podcast and produces all our podcasts. And I'd also like to thank Stephen Brown of Glitterville for our beautiful Sweaty and Pissed artwork. Leanne and I will be with you next week. And until then, please stay safe and be well. Thanks for joining.
Sweat.